Because all we need to do is give you permission for you to be you.
Oh my goodness.
When you know who you are, you'll know what to do.
That's amazing.
This moment, you've been waiting for this your whole life.
Oh my goodness, I wish I was in the same room because I just want to hug you.
You can't fix a problem using the same thinking that created it. And by the way, beautiful, you didn't do anything wrong.
Thank you.
Your show is not a show, it's an experience.
What do you do, Stephen?
I'm the universal courier that's been sent to answer your doubt.
Thank you.
What the heck is happening right now?
And it's happening live.
My life's about the gift I've been given to make you the gift that you are.
Ready cameras, studio standby.
Video is ready for live.
If I enter your life, it will change. Start investing in the world called your dreams. Hello everyone, how you doing? I'm here with Rajiv Handa. Hello Rajiv, how are you?
Hi, Stephen. I'm absolutely fine. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Whereabouts are you?
I am based out of India, a city known as Gurgaon, which is about 10 miles away from Delhi.
Yep.
So here I am from the wonderful city of Gurgaon.
And I'm in lockdown Sydney, but only for a few more days. Everyone, what we're talking about today is around the issue of mental health. A couple of things just to position it. There's a difference between mental health and mental illness, and we respect that. We're also not here to talk in terms of any prescriptions or solutions around mental health or mental illness, but we are here to talk and share our experiences in the context of our respective lives, respective journeys. My respective last 4 months of being in lockdown here in Sydney, in a city I don't live in normally, so I don't have a huge social circle or business circle, and when you're in lockdown it's pretty hard to create one. So a lot of the what I call situational mental health in terms of anxiety, fatigue, the sort of solitude stuff is a place that I'll speak from, and I know Rajiv can speak from a similar place in the context of the journey that he's gone through coming out of an extremely successful corporate career and what he's doing right now. So one of the things that I wanted to take us on a little bit of a journey was everything we're talking about is awareness to discovery. So one of the things on the masterclass I wanted to cover today was just a little bit of a concept about what is awareness and where does it fit. Because all we need to do is give you permission for you to be you.
Oh my goodness.
My life's about the gift I've been given to make you the gift that you are.
That is amazing. Wow.
So one of the things I've always said, what are the stages of change? So if we're going to go from awareness to discovery around mental health, awareness to discovery around any aspect of our lives, what's some of the conversation that we could have around the concept of change? And this is an Inspiring Insights masterclass. The very first stage of change is what I call awareness. And today's conversation is about awareness to discovery, and we'll expand on that as we chat. The second stage of change is from that place of awareness is having the courage to act. The third stage of change is having the compassion to do two things. The compassion to congratulate yourself if your courageous action to that awareness state has produced positivity. The compassion that if you've made a mistake or it hasn't worked. The fourth stage of change is the whole concept of refinement. And that refinement comes in the form of continuing, conflict, crossroads, and commitment. So what do I mean by each one of those? Continuing is if it's working, you commit to continue and also give yourself a pat on the back. Secondly, if it's in conflict, it means you've hit some type of a roadblock. It's not working. So you need to commit to refining. A crossroad is it's working, but there's something that needs review. There's something that needs a refinement and a commitment to refining. And then that final stage is the whole concept of committing to have the courage to act. And the end result is you go back to this stage of the first stage of change is awareness, having the courage to act, the compassion to be good to yourself, both for the successes and the not so successful things that you'll try, refinement, to continue through conflict and crossroads and make a commitment to keep going. And later on, so what happens before I go to later on, the stages of change for elite high performance people, the stages of change for people who break through these situations, whether it's mental health, whether it's constraint, they get to a point that change becomes their life's focus. Think of Musk, think of Bezos, think of Richard Branson. Change to those guys, Nelson Mandela, Ariana Huffington, Oprah Winfrey, change to those types of individuals becomes their life's focus. It becomes something they don't run from. It's almost something that they adopt. And as I often say, the elite don't live in the safe house, because the safe house is the place where there is no change. A little later on, we'll talk in more detail about how you manage the stages of change. But before we do that, I just wanted to have a conversation and ask Rajiv, what were your reflections on that whole concept of awareness to discovery around the issues of mental health, especially with your journey, my friend? Have you got anything to add or some comment around that?
Well, Stephen, I believe what you alluded to here is a very interesting manifestation of probably what every individual goes through subconsciously or consciously. And
Yep.
those who can probably deliver themselves out of the subconscious and gain that strength into moving into those taking those conscious actions and steps is where change can actually be felt and people can actually demonstrate change to themselves. I would probably go back to a very interesting phase of my life, and I call my life as probably 3-4 very interesting phases, and we'll touch on them as we go forward.
Yep.
But what is probably very relevant here is the fact that and you touched upon the fact that there are a lot of people who believe that change is what they're here to give back to society, give back to the world. I think leadership comes from a position of people who accept that the only constant in their life is change. Now, the moment you take that position, the moment you take that status quo and start challenging that status quo, what happens is you move into the realm of what you called as the first stage of awareness.
Yes.
Now, the more you gain insights into yourself, the more you gain awareness about yourself, the more you're prepared to start building what you call as courage, right? And that courage is nothing else but telling yourself that I am ready now to accept what is within me and what I'm made up of. So
Yep.
I would just want to sort of reflect on my own journey and say that besides awareness, the very important shift and the shifting step, or the pedestal, if I was to call it, towards being able to move to that phase of wanting to change is acceptance. Acceptance of my own self-awareness, acceptance of the awareness and people around me, which give me strength, capability, and an understanding of saying, what am I capable of? What can I do to make a difference? And how do I move forward? So I think that's a very important first step. At least that's what I've learned in my own journey, that the more I get to be knowing more about myself, the more strength and courage I build in myself to be able to keep moving forward into a direction which I choose for myself. And I think the key word here is I need to choose a direction of my own. And once I do that, it allows me to sort of guide people into the next phase of their life because I've done it myself. So it's not that I'm telling somebody to do something that I haven't experienced. So that's something I just thought, it came to my mind. I thought I'll just share that with you.
No, that's really cool. I just got to see, because I didn't check the board, everyone. I just got to see if the board's lined up, because I didn't check it today. Oh, I'm just off, but never mind. What I just heard Rajiv say, every individual has known and unknown elements to them. There is a change, and my add to what you've said there, Rajiv. They always used to say the only constant is change in life is change. Well, to me, the only constant in change in the life we lead today is the speed of change. It's not that it's, for me, change is not something that's constant anymore. The speed of change is what's constant. So when from a known and unknown position in terms of consciousness and not being conscious, there's a speed of change. When you actually become aware through your consciousness of this change, awareness, acceptance, and approval brings you on a path of self-leadership. Now, everyone, let me just ask this question, and I'll get Rajiv to throw his how do you say pennies in Delhi? What's in India?
How do you say?
Cents
Penny.
and pen. Is it penny?
Paisa.
Is it okay?
Paisa. It's paisa.
Paisa. Well, I'll get you to throw your paisa in a second. Everyone, think of some of the best leaders, and I'm not talking about iconic leaders. Think of leaders in your life. Just think of that person, one or two. Doesn't have to be Mandela, doesn't have to be some of the big iconic leaders, but just someone who's got a leadership that you look up to, that may be someone that's known to you in your circle. Can I ask you the question, does that person have a sense of courage choice, and confidence in their leadership? Does that person have, I flicked the wrong one up there, sorry about that. Does that person have courage, choice? The person that's in your head that you're talking about, I said, pick someone that you can think and reflect on that you think has got really strong leadership qualities, tendencies, and you admire. Do they have courage? Do they have the ability to make conscious choices? Do they have the ability to make confidence? And we think last week to Andre and his reversing his heart condition. And what did he say? He made a decision that he would actually reverse his heart condition, and he'd go from being a victim to a survivor to a navigator in his life. That language, does that not speak of courage, choice, and confidence? And as we talk further with Rajiv, we'll find the same thing is applicable from that perspective as well. So Rajiv, oh, hang on, gone to the wrong one. What am I doing here? There you go. Got too many buttons pressing today. I'm very excited to talk to Rajiv. Rajiv, leadership to you. Does the words courage, confidence, choice spring to mind when you talk about that process that you just took me through, from known to unknown to speed of change, awareness, acceptance, approval, which goes to self-leadership and gives people courage, choice, and confidence? Does that resonate with you, my friend?
Yeah, it completely does. And it actually allows me to sort of reflect back on the next important stage, which actually is a very important stage, which sort of builds in from self-leadership. And first of all, I completely agree with those three elements, because if you don't have those, I think you have no business to be in leadership. And I say that with great sense of responsibility. Yeah. And I say that very consciously, the fact saying that there are leaders who are leaders, and there are leaders who pretend to be leaders. And I'm yes. sorry to be so upfront and direct about it, but the fact is that if you don't go through the journey yourself, if you do not show up with courage, confidence, and I would add the word clarity to it, then yes. you're not in the business of being a leader. And that's exactly what gets me to the next stage of saying, then you're being accountable to yourself. And the moment you start becoming accountable to yourself, your self-leadership moves to the next stage, where the moment you become accountable, what are you doing to yourself? One, you're choosing to be your own competitor. You're choosing to be answerable to yourself. You're choosing to take actions which get you to become better than who you were yesterday. And that journey is the most powerful, empowering, liberating journey, which helps you deliver clarity, confidence, and makes you accountable to yourself before you want to step out and tell somebody, hey, buddy, I'm going to lead you this path. So that's where I'm sort of coming from, into saying that the moment you've sort of gone through the awareness stage, you get down to confidence, clarity, and being accountable to yourself. And you move to the next phase, which I call as discovering yourself and discovering what's around you. And that's exactly where the real fun starts. Because if you've not gone through the first stage, like what you described, change is meaningless, and change has actually very little, because it's just showcasing a window, if you ask me honestly, otherwise. Right? And I use this quite often with people I work with, and I tell them there's a very slight difference between truth and honesty.
Yep.
And I sum it up very simplistically. I actually use very simple examples most of the time, because that's all I can understand. Is that
me too.
Truth is about what you tell somebody. Honesty is what you tell about yourself to yourself. So the more you become honest, the more you become honest with yourself, the more you're increasing your deep dive into self-awareness, into being confident, into being accountable to yourself. And that awareness will lead you to a path of discovering a side of you, which I can guarantee you is going to be not just life-changing, it's going to set you on a different realm altogether. I'm feeling that, I'm experiencing it. I've just started off, by the way. So that's where I am. And I'm so excited that I thought I must share the way that journey is traveling me, allowing me to travel through it.
So don't be silly. Keep going, buddy. I can't keep up on the whiteboard. It's no wonder I'm pressing all the wrong buttons today. Everyone, one of the things that we've talked about is these 7 elements. So if you're dealing with some type of changes coming into your life, let's do it this way for a second. Roger, join me up close. We're speaking to people out there right now. If some type of change is coming to you, and for all of us, we didn't get given the choice of change around COVID and everything that happened, it just came. And in the context of as things Sydney's coming out of lockdown next week and those types of things, it still is going to have change to it. There's still going to be a difference to the way that we live. And I know that India's further ahead and the Northern Hemisphere is further ahead than we Aussies that fell behind. Everyone, some form of change in the context of a conflict or a crossroad is going to come into your life positively or negatively. It just is. So the end result is, and what I really like about what we've been saying here, is this context of this conversation here. Everyone, the very first thing that you need to do when you get confronted with some type of conflict, which is a form of change, some type of crossroad. Conflict might be a medical condition. I'm not necessarily talking about crossroads. A conflict might be some type of medical condition. A crossroad might be a change of career. A crossroad might be a decision, as Rajiv and I have both done respectively in our journeys. We reached a crossroad where we decided to go on another path. But change is going to come in the form of conflict or crossroad. Rajiv, go with me on this if you can help me, please. Everyone, let me come to the big screen to make this very emphatically. Everyone. When crossroads and conflict come to your life, there are 7 things that you need to be focused on. Some of the solutions and resolutions are going to be known and unknown to you. Some of these conflicts and crossroads, you're not going to be able to rationalize. You're not going to have a knowledgeable reasoning as to why it's happened. Number 2, change is going to come in that form. Be aware of it. Create awareness, because you're going to need to have the courage to seek clarity, courage, choice and confidence for you to be able to manage the way that you deal with change. So a point, Rajiv, and I know we can go in a number of different directions. Change is going to come into your life, everyone. One really good checklist, like an airline pilot about to take off. When change comes in either conflict or crossroads, don't always try and rationalize if you understand it, because sometimes it'll be known or it'll be unknown to you. It is change. Accept it. It's a conflict. It's a crossroad. Okay, good. How aware are you of, and bear in mind, everyone, it's awareness not of what caused it, it's awareness of your presence of mind of what you're going to do about it. That presence of mind comes through clarity, the courage to act, to seek choices and confidence. Now, I know I've run through that pretty quickly, Rajiv, but to me, if change comes into your life, everyone, let's do this in 3 steps. A, change comes into your life. Guess what? It feels like conflict and it feels like crossroads. It's called change, everyone. B, you're going to have to go through the process of, I can't understand it. That's okay. No one can understand COVID, and look what happened. So change is going to come. B, ask yourself, do I understand it or not? Just because you can't get the sum of why this change has happened, I can't work out the equation, doesn't mean you don't know how to deal with it. And then C is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. It is change. I'm aware of that. I don't understand why. I'm aware that I need to seek clarity, to have courage, to make some choices and confidence. And there's a whole pile of things that we will do at the end of the month on the event that we're running to break this down even further. But for now, Rajiv, I know I've piled a lot of things onto you just then. What's your thoughts about that? Because I'm trying to surmise the journey you're taking us on.
Yeah, I think, first of all, thanks for this summarization. And as I always call you, the great whiteboard man, in terms of being able to sort of build that thought flow into some what I always keep telling Stephen, golden nuggets. I think the important part that you very rightly identified is the fact that the process of being able to travel through the known and the unknown into the realm of self-awareness, leading you towards greater clarity and greater confidence, is the start point of where you start discovering the real potential that is within you.
Yes.
And that real potential within you gives you the ability to manifest the courage that you believe to have sort of touched on in the previous stage. So, and I'm sort of walking through the stages of life that I personally have experienced. And I'm not just talking out of the rhetorics that keep happening on various posts across different social media, but this is real life.
Yes.
The crossroads and the choices one has to make are never easy.
No.
But the choices you make take you in a particular direction. Don't be ashamed of having to turn back if you have to also. Let me also say that. Because somewhere you also did mention about the fact that there is a need to repurpose, there is a need to realign. Now that is part and parcel of the process of what I call as discovering your journey onward and forward. So if I just for a minute get the awareness stage converting into through the unknown and known into a state of a confident, clear self who is a self leader, who's accountable to oneself, and now is ready to discover and identify what next can I do with the situation I'm faced with.
Yep.
That's exactly what happened with me. I moved out of a corporate career of 30 years, and I had a choice to make. The choice I had to make was to continue to go back into the corporate world and start serving all over again. And till the time I exist, I continue to be entangled. I'm using that word entangled without any disrespect towards the corporate life. The corporate life has given me a lot.
Yes.
But entangled to the extent of not being able to free myself into an opportunity of being able to be more aware of myself, to deep dive into being courageous enough to become confident, and to choose to make my own choices around the crossroads and the conflicts that I was faced with. The two words you used, they become so very important that the choices I had was, can I go back again to corporate? It would have been difficult. But was there a route possible? Maybe yes. Was it a choice that I had to make? I chose something. Has the journey from there on been easy? No journey which is worth its salt is easy. That's what I've learned out of the last few years. The harder it is, the better it is at the end of it. And I think that's, again, part of the whole process of awareness and discovery. So to me, awareness and discovery deliver to you the self-leader who is accountable into a sort of what I could call as a set of an action plan or a roadmap or a journey or a path that I want to set myself onto. And that phase is something which, whether you are a youngster, whether you are a leader who's sort of aspiring to change jobs, look at alternative careers,
Yes.
look at mid-career crisis at the age of 30, 35, or you're a senior leader at a CXO position, challenged with what I call is loneliness. Because I have been there, I know how lonely it is at the top, right? The only thing you have is a great tag, a great designation, lots of perks, but it's very lonely out there. Having said that, that is also something that generates immense power in you to decide that the path you've chosen, are you making the right choice? Are you doing the right things? And that's when being self-accountable, being able to figure out that what I'm discovering is helping me move in the right direction, allows you to keep yourself on course. So awareness leading to discovery and a journey onward and forward towards what people refer to as a purpose or a why is essential. I think that goes without saying. And then you sort of keep moving forward and hopefully get ready for the next phase, which will come probably in the next part of what we discuss. But I think that's the most important piece. Just to summarize, get yourself into the realm of self-awareness, be aware of yourself and your surroundings, start accepting things. From acceptance, move into the stage of a confident, clear, accountable self-leader who starts discovering their journey and move into where you can move forward into. And that's probably the path that I'm traveling on. The journey has just begun. And I keep telling Stephen this, the best is yet to come.
I know what you mean by that. Boy, do I know what you mean by that. Okay, let's do some surmising on where you've taken us to so far, which is really good. A, B, C, and then we're going to do some D'ing. And we're talking to people who are dealing with some type of change. That you may be a young leader, you may be help me with some of the titles that you've mentioned to me before. There's senior executives and senior leaders. You might be a young student. You might be something questioning about where does this whole degree and qualification take me? Alternately, you might be someone who's longer into the journey and you might be in middle management, or you might be a senior leader and you're starting to ask yourself some questions, because we're in a stage now, everyone. Keep pushing the wrong button. We're in a stage now, everyone, where the opportunity, and I said this last week, this is an opportunity, an amazing generational opportunity that everything's on the table now. The idea that we could run, I'm in the hotel chain here with some people that I know who've kindly accommodated me during the last 18 months. We're in a situation now where hoteliers will never be able to say that they could survive 9% occupancy. We're in an era of humanity now where airlines can say that they could ground 96% of their fleet and still stay in business, even though it's been really challenging. And I don't say that simply for the people who have been affected. We're in a situation where we now live as any culture, any creed, any religion, any generation, that we could be locked in our houses and we'll still survive, even though there's massive challenge with it. So what I'm trying to say, everyone, 9% occupancy in hotels, 96% of the world's airline fleet grounded, people being shut in their houses for 4, 5, 6 months. All of that has happened. So we're now in a situation of what's open for me to consider. What questions am I going to ask myself? Because in 2018, the idea of 96% of the world's airline fleet not flying was something you wouldn't have been able to calculate. I know I couldn't have. So let's just surmise where we've got to. You are going to go through a process of these 7 stages when change comes to you. I won't go through them again. B, conflict and crossroads. And I think this was a really important point that Rajiv made. There is no shame if you arrive at some type of conflict or crossroad in your life. Third, if your awareness to discovery, and particularly if you've applied yourself to a particular activity, whether it's a university degree, whether it's a corporate career that's been going on for years, and then all of a sudden there's a sense of loneliness, there's a sense of evaluation that's downward spiral, there's a sense of regret, there's a sense of I made bad choices, and before you know it, you've spiraled down into a sense of mental health fatigue and almost depression because, oh my God, what did I do with the last 4 years, 5 years, 6 years of my degree? Oh my God, what have I done with the last 25, 30 years of my life? If your awareness and discovery starts going, I'm lonely, I evaluated that the choices I've made over my career or the last 6 years of my degree is wrong. Oh my God, I made the wrong decision. Oh my God, I'm not good at choices. Because guess what, everyone? The instant the little voice in your head starts telling you that you can't evaluate, you can't choose, and you live a life of regret, boy, is your life in trouble. Rajiv.
Bang on. I so agree with what you're saying. And most of the time, going back to the very important point you just now raised about mental health, the stage of awareness and the stage of discovery sometimes can sort of precipitate a sense of great amount of discomfort. And that's the time where I think so your own courage, your own self-confidence, your own self-belief comes extremely handy for you to be able to hold you together as the person who is not just only, and it's not only about, again, I will again come back to something which is very often misunderstood, and I'm using the word misunderstood, is that it's very easy to become self-confident. A lot of people believe that, right? But let me tell you, I can come back to my own example.
Yeah.
When I moved out of my corporate life, I thought I probably had one of the most fascinating and brilliant careers. And I'm so grateful to all the people who sort of contributed to it and continue to contribute. I worked in the best brands. I worked in the best organizations. Have had some fabulous leaders I've worked with. I've created wonderful teams, built large businesses globally in Asia, Africa, Middle East, across 7 industries. Had been the CEO, have been a global business leader, and so on and so forth. You know, when I reflect back on that, I think I've spoken to you about this, Stephen, once earlier.
Yes.
When I reflect back on this, what reaches out to me is saying they were actually all tags. They were great names to have. They were excellent designations and positions to have. But the most important thing is that when I chose to become who I am becoming today, and I'm using that word again very consciously, who I'm becoming today, because that journey is going to be till the last day of my life. Who I'm going to become and who I'm becoming is a manifestation of the fact that I, at that point in time, decided I've done all of this. It's going to be very easy, right? And there's nothing that's difficult. I've done all of that. But when you step aside and wear a different pair of hats, you wear a different pair of shoes, you suddenly realize that there is so much to be aware about for yourself. There is so much to discover about yourself and your surroundings. And there's so much of additional courage, self-realization, self-confidence, self-belief that you need to rebuild in yourself. And once you do that, you then start the third phase of your life, which says, are you ready to deliver? Because you're being asked to deliver from ground zero again. And as again, I said, no shame in it. And that's honestly the real journey. And I actually call this my own ad formula. From awareness to discovery to delivery. And that's what makes you accountable to yourself first, and then stand out and say, I'm here to help you to become accountable to yourself. And that's exactly what it's all about. And that's in net and substance, my own journey, my own experience. And because I feel it, I believe that's exactly what my work is today. My work is not a fiction, not a fiction novel, by the way. Neither is it science fiction. It's my own journey. And that's the best part about it. Yeah. And that's why I'm so excited about when we spoke about this fabulous show of Inspiring Insights, and we said, well, should we look at it what way? And I think so. When you said it's about, because last week, as you said, with Andrea, the session that happened, which sort of spoke about a very interesting, different facet of looking at how you deliver your self capabilities, your mindfulness, your abilities, your all that you need. And here we are, where we are converting to the next level of from awareness to delivery, right? And I think that's exactly what becomes extremely important to take forward to. So to me, the third stage, the milestone, is delivery. And that's when refinement comes into play. You mentioned it somewhere in the beginning. That's where your ability to be able to focus on execution comes into play. That's where your real muscle of actionability, of being able to convert all that you believe is required, starts getting converted. So that's,
I'm going to get you to come back to the ad thing in a second, but I just wanted to jump this into the screen for us. And I want to just ask a couple of questions, and we are going to go back to ad. I'm going to jump into some e-learning stuff, kind of seeing we're almost at halfway through, and then I'm going to come back to the ad with the board clean, because there's a bunch of things I want to play around with as you describe that again. Everyone, I know this has got really busy. A, these are the 7 things when change comes into your life. B, when conflict and crossroads come, and boy, will it come. It's called life. There's no shame. In fact, the only shame you should have is if you don't have these, because you must be sitting on a bench somewhere doing nothing. Everyone, and Rajiv, I really want you to contribute to this. Your awareness to discovery. Here's a couple of things, and let me come to the and get the right one this time. Let me come to the screen and say this. I'm going to ask I'm going to make some pretty profound, what might seem blunt statements about people who, and I've done this to myself. So this is a self-study. This is something I'm sharing that I've done. And Donna, I know you're watching. Hey, gorgeous. Donna knows this, and she's only known me a little while, but she knows this of me, and I drive her crazy sometimes, the poor thing. Everyone, when you're discovering, and we said about loneliness, we said about regret, we said about poor choices, whether that's in that lifelong career you've had or the last 4, 5, 6 years of your degree, for example, here's a couple of things to ask yourself, because they're the negatives. I'm lonely. I regret the choices I've made. Oh my God, what's the value in what I've been doing in this degree or my 20, 25-year career? Let me ask you these questions, everyone. Number 1, what do you believe in? What do you have a belief in? And forget about, when I say these things, and I'll try and do this quickly, Rajiv, forget about putting your hat on and going, well, I've actually got to make a conversation about what do I believe in? Oh, I know what I believe in. I believe in my mission and my why and all that. No. What do you believe in? What's real in your life? Secondly, what are you proud of? That might be your daughter. That might be your grandchildren if you're in that situation. It might be the fact that you've been raised by some really cool parents. It might be that you weren't raised by some really cool parents, but you're proud of what you've done all by yourself. Number 3, I'll come to the screen again and ask this one. When you're in the process after conflict and crossroads and you're challenging yourself about, did I make the right choices? Do I regret? Ask yourself this question. What could you lose in your life that would devastate you? Your wife or husband, girlfriend, boyfriend, significant other, where you live, those possessions you've acquired over that corporate career and you now think's not good enough. If you lost something, What would it mean to you? Because that's going to anchor you back into the biggest conflict in your life is ahead of you, because if you lost that. And then the last one, everyone, and this is something I often think of, and I said this to a gentleman who was quite elderly, and he said, you know what, Steve, he goes, I've got some regrets in my life. And he had 5 children and a bunch of grandchildren. And I was staying with him here in Sydney, very kind of him to allow me to stay. I walked over, watching some rugby match, and I walked over and I put my hand on his chest and I said, this is a magic hand, go with me. I will allow you to get rid of one of your children. I'll allow you to go back. And you can go back to a part of your life where you can change something, but you've got to trade one of your 5 kids. And he started crying. So everyone, my question to you is this: what would you exchange if you could go back and clear that regret? Let me say that to you again in full screen. If you had the opportunity to get rid of that evaluation of I shouldn't have done this degree, I shouldn't have done the corporate career, I make bad choices, you evaluate the fact that all of this time, study or career, has been wrong, what would you give up to be able to change it? If this was a magic wand, not just a pen, what would you exchange to replace that regret? Because all of a sudden you'll discover it's not that much of regret after all. Rajiv?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it gets me back to the whole process of self-awareness. Because when you ask that question, I'll pick up on the last point that you made.
Yep.
That when you actually ask of yourself that what would you exchange, and that's when you heighten your self-awareness and you suddenly realize that the exchange is forcing you to realize that acceptance is better than the regret. The moment you accept everything around you as is and start acknowledging it is there for a reason, and you are the person who can make the best of what is available with you, everything around you will change. And it's like a simple example that I refer to. There are days you get up from the bed, you find everything great. And there are days where everything is just not great. Nothing has changed, by the way.
Yes.
The people around you are the same. The situations are the same. But it's how you have conditioned yourself to say that, am I accepting what I have today? Or am I regretting that I woke up today and I don't like the face of such and such person? So it's the same point. And the trade-off is actually right in your own head. And I will again go back to awareness. I think the moment you heighten your awareness to be able to distinguish that and recognize the fact that regret has no place, but the power of what you believe in and what you want is right around you, I think everything suddenly changes. That's again my personal view on that.
It does. And if I just go to this little section hiding over in the corner, which I didn't cover before, and I got it right, just got it in. Number D. So we've gone through these 7 stages. There's no shame. We've then talked about evaluation and kicking your regret, loneliness, and those types of things, because you can't change anything. Everyone, this is a favorite of mine. You cannot change the past. You can only damage the future by not being in the present. Number 1. You cannot change the past. You can only damage the future by not being in the present. Second one, and I wrote this on the board. I don't normally write notes for myself, but I really wanted to say this. Everyone, the only thing that's missing in your life is for you to make room for you to be in it. The only thing that's missing in your life is for you to make room for you to be in it. That's the only thing that's missing. Because guess what? What else do you need? All you've ever wanted, everything you've ever needed to get it, is all you've ever been. So very much so, who are you becoming? Be you. And on the journey of being you and accepting who you are, you'll discover. I'm going to go to those slides in a sec, Rajiv. The second thing is, it's coming. Life is like the sunrise and the sunset. It's going to happen constantly. So get ready for what's coming, what's next. And guess what? When you actually discover who you are, you embrace who you are, you start having those conversations about what would I exchange? I wouldn't exchange anything. What am I proud of? What do I believe in? What is it about me that I need to make room for? You'll start seeing things come to you. I went away just before the lockdown, for example. I went away, just tell a quick little story here before we go to the e-learning. I'm going to throw to e-learning in a second, come back to ADD. I went off to a place called the Hunter Valley, which is a wine area just outside of Sydney, and it was about 4.5 months ago. Little did I know the following weekend would be shut down for the next 4 months. So I at least had a little bit of time away for a few days. And I started the process. And one of the things is I decided that I was going to elevate the Sede brand and keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. I was going to grow. I was going to take this passion and obsession I've got for you and do whatever I could to find you, whatever I could to reach you. And I sat in this golf course place, and the guys here got me to speak at one of their events, so they kindly put me up for a few nights at this beautiful accommodation. And I stayed there, and I started creating content at the new brand level of Sede. A little while later, a girl called Donna contacted me off Instagram, who had a capability to help me do what I now need to do next. What happened, everyone? I started to become who I was. I started to accept the destined responsibility of everything in my life. And I'm talking to you now. You have a destined responsibility for all of the good and bad that's happened in your life, and a destined responsibility to accept it, shape it, and go share it. And when you discover that, when you embrace that, the Donnas of this world will come looking to help you. And you'll drive them crazy on the journey of discovering all of that. Sorry, Donna, but that's what happens. Rajiv, give everyone a quick snapshot of your e-learning background and why you've asked me to do what I'm about to do with the BU Academy.
Well, I think I'll just sort of start off by saying that I think how important it is to be you. And I think so it starts with the concept of what I say is about uncaging you from yourself, and I like to start from there.
It's
right?
Very good. Yep.
And the power of BU is again in your own hands. If you choose to uncage yourself, you from yourself, you're actually liberating and empowering yourself. And the process of my own evolution in my own career, as I mentioned earlier, has taken me through multiple industries. I have been in pharma, I have been in the education business, I have been in the e-learning business, I have been in the retail business, I've been in the telecom business, and I've been in the insurance and the insurtech business. Digital as well as physical, as what is referred to today. I come from an era where physical dominated, asset-heavy businesses dominated, and today we are in an era where asset-light, nimble-footed, agile businesses is what the era of growth and next level of transformation is all about.
True. Also.
Having said that, in my journey, I've actually played around, and I'm using that word played around with digital and technologies in two phases of my life. Yes. One, when it was early days, where I was part of creating e-learning when technology was even struggling to understand what bandwidth speeds are all about. And in the second phase of digital engagement that I got involved in was when I was part and parcel of various partnerships and global tie-ups around using digital technologies to be able to simplify the whole processes of business to business and business to consumer life cycles. That's just some sort of, as people call, corporate jargonish stuff, but that's how sort of I've sort of traveled some of these places.
Yes.
Now, through the e-learning journey and through what has been happening and what I've known of the work that Stephen has been sort of engaged in and doing, one is it speaks very closely to the type of beliefs and value systems that probably I personally have and what probably he stands for, and I really respect him for that, from the space that he comes in from. And I'm not saying this for the reason that I'm saying it on TV, but this is genuinely what I believe. In fact, I have this very terrible reputation. I say what has to be said. I normally don't mince any words. So please
apologize for that.
So that's something. So I think so. The whole opportunity for e-learning to interplay with getting into an expansionist mode, and I'm using the word expansionist not from a negative part of it, because Stephen says that very often that. And I completely believe in what he says on that, is that he says, I am here to touch your life so that your life does not remain what it was. I'm here to change your life. And I think that's true. Yep. So the only way it can happen in today's time is that it must reach out to those who need it. It must reach out to those in a way and manner that it must be available to them in a way and manner that they can consume it the most. Relevant to them, with solutions, with options to help them through their conflicts, their crossroads, depending on wherever they are. right? And I think that's probably the power of what's available. So I think that's probably the to me, that's again part of what I said. It's again part of discovery.
Yeah.
Awareness is that here is a person who has great gifts. Discovery is about there is a lot that can be done if it has to touch those who really need to be impacted.
Yes.
And delivery is what I hope that Stephen is going to show us now. So it again adds up to add.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's something that Rajiv's asked me to do. And I've got some feedback somewhere. Hang on just a sec, everyone. I've got some feedback somewhere. Hopefully that'll go away. I hope so. It did. There you go. Sorry, everyone. Bit of a technical glitch. Let's do this. One of the things that Rajiv asked me to do was actually to display what the BU Academy is. And I've tied this in with the whole concept of managing the stages of change. And for the purposes of this, I'll go full screen so everyone can see it fully. So to me, there's 7 pillars in your life. It's your confidence, your authenticity, how you engage, how you express, what your clarity, what your creativity, and what your passion is. So what I've done over the last 25 years of traveling around the world, and the last 10 years particularly, is I've built a thing called the BU Academy. And Rajiv asked me if I would break it down because he's not seen it. He's a Sede guest. He's been inside the academy, but he's asked me to share it. So here goes. What I did is I created a course called Mind Sight Mastery around how do you build your confidence. It's personal development, a 6-module, 25 tutorial course. Every single one of these courses and every single lesson has a video, a podcast, a transcript, and a guide. The second thing was, how do you create authenticity? How do you actually explore, engage, educate, and exceed the psychological behavior of every human being on the planet in what I call behavioral marketing: explore, engage, educate, and exceed. There's 13 modules with 96 tutorials. How do you create your authenticity around your expertise? Thirdly, how do you actually understand people engagement? How do you engage people? Networking at a level that's not just how do you go to a networking event? What is the psychology of what happens when 2 human beings meet? And again, modules and tutorials are shown. Then how do you actually express yourself? How do you speak? How do you communicate? And there's 37 tutorials that teach you all kinds of things, from how do you use the movement of your body? How do you use tonality? Which different types of speaking? Which types of volumes of your voice? What are the different styles of your voice? How do you create a competency way of creating stories? How do you deliver content the way that I do it? For example, not necessarily on a whiteboard. And people kept asking me that, so I built a course on it. Then how do you actually create what's called audio to Amazon, but it's actually create content structures? How do you take your expertise with clarity and start putting it into a structured way? Once that structured way is done, how do you put your expertise everywhere with visual simplicity and impactful engagement? And for those who know the Sede brand, you'll know how visually simple but how impactful my content is, and how it literally is everywhere. And with Donna's help, that's getting more and more. And then finally, the passion is the genesis of your genius. This is by invitation. Rajiv doesn't even know about this one. It's called the Sede Genesis. And the whole thing is focused around how do you actually go from awareness to courage to compassion to refinement. And I built a system called the BU Academy, where I took those 7 pillars of how you deal with change and I put them into a variety of courses. They're all customized in a BU blueprint, which goes into different forms of lesson plans. Each one of them has a graduation certificate and certification to it. So how do you do character mastery, creativity mastery, storytelling mastery, commitment mastery, courage mastery, visual mastery, speaking mastery? And all of that is wrapped up in what's called the Stephen Sede Institute, Lessons in the Business of Life, because everyone, my passion is your highest potential. I am absolutely addicted to helping people, and I refuse to allow anyone to doubt themselves. So that's what I've actually done. It's the Stephen Sede Institute. It's the BU Academy, about the 7 pillars to make you, you. And more importantly, everything I do is to give you permission for you to be you. There you go, Rajiv. I did it at last. You've been asking me for a while to do that. So there you go.
Now, thanks for that sort of I would say summary. I would want to use the word summary because there's so much within it, so much of depth that's within it. I think so. It's important to sort of look at it. And I just want to sort of mention one part here, Stephen, that I think it's so important to recognize that the pillars that you speak of, these pillars that you talk about, finally they all connect up with the journey of individuals moving away from gaining control on themselves. And it ties in well very much into the whole element that we are really stitching together here around mental awareness, mental
Yes.
health,
Yes.
right? Because a more confident person, a more self aware person, a more uh, empowered individual is more capable of dealing with uncertainties around themselves. So, mental health is a manifestation of a state of stress, a state of anxiety, a state of helplessness sometimes. Now, all of that finally stems somewhere down below, whether you're not aware of yourself, you're not aware of your capabilities, you start doubting yourself, you lose self belief, you lose self confidence. And if you look at the 7 pillars here, confidence, authenticity, ability to engage, ability to express yourself, gaining clarity, creativity, which is another side of the brain, and passion. All of these are contributing towards becoming you and being empowered enough to start taking challenges into your own hand. And that probably is where your mental strength transforms from just being, I would say, being caged into it. What I started with saying. At the end of the day, it's uncaging you out of yourself. And here are
Yes.
7 pillars, which each one of them has the power to be able to allow you to sort of start scraping the surface one by one and discover what else is possible within you. I think that's what I would believe it is.
Yeah, no, very true. If I go and come to this main screen, let's just say, how do you define mental health? Not mental illness, everyone, but mental health. Some of the situations and things that people are having to deal with right now. Would you agree with me that if your confidence is disconnected, your authenticity is disconnected, your ability to engage others is disconnected, call it COVID, working from home, being isolated, lockdown, your ability to express yourself is disconnected, your clarity and purpose is disconnected, your creativity is disconnected, and your passion is disconnected? Would it be fair to say that you've maxed out on conflict and crossroads, and now that is why the biggest thing in the world in the next pandemic is the issue of mental health? Because your confidence, authenticity, the way you engage, the way you express, the clarity of who you are, the creativity of who you are, and the passion of how you believe and what you believe in, when all of those are disconnected, you have an issue around your mental health, your mental stability, your mental strength, your fatigue, your depression, anxiety. And as we said last week, 87% of people are in some way experiencing this. 86% of businesses have got their teams coming to talk to them about it. 70% of managers are reporting that people are coming to raise the issue, their team members, about what do I do around mental health? And 70% of those businesses are saying we're not prepared for it. So that's one of the reasons why this whole concept of uncaging and unlocking yourself and releasing you from you is what we're working towards putting together at the end of October. Your confidence, your authenticity, how you engage, express your clarity, creativity, and passion is the keys to your ability to live your life and for you to make room for you. Rajiv?
Absolutely, and I think that's probably the power that probably needs to be handed over to each individual, whether you are a young adult coming out of college,
Yes.
or you are somebody who's just starting on your career and the early stages of a career where the life stages are very, very different and challenging because you're getting used to a new world around yourself. And more so in today's time, in the COVID scenario, you don't even know whether you're working hybrid, you're working from home, you're
Yep.
working online, you're working in office, whether you have to face with an office situation which is well taken care of or not, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple layers to the type of challenges that are emerging in the new work environment space. And there are enough studies that are going around today, whether it's a McKinsey study of workplace that's going on, or it's a Deloitte study that's going on. All of them are indicating at one thing, that people want to come back. People want to go back and manage a work life. I think it's no longer even work life balance now. It's about work balance, because you want to
Yes.
be at home, you would still want to be out at a different place, because you need to engage with people, you need to see. And part of the challenge of this whole mental health, if I was to refer to it, is, in fact, I was reading a WHO study the other day, and it said that through a lot of surveys that people have done, people have zeroed down to something very interesting. They said, the WHO said that in the earlier communications that went out around COVID, the usage of the word social distancing is one of the biggest errors that have happened. And I'm using the word error because the moment you start using the word social distancing, us as human beings, as social animals, we don't like to be distant socially. So had people are now doing some studies on it to figure out that can there be something else that can be called, because then came the word lockdown, then came the word unlock, then there came open one, open two. Now all these have started affecting people into saying, who am I? Am I being caged? Am I being brought into somewhere that I don't belong to? Because at the end of the day, we are social animals. So part of the current phase that everybody is going through, whether it's a young kid who's not gone to school, whether it's a college student who wanted the farewell or the graduation ceremony to happen among their friends, or whether it's somebody who's going for the first day to, there have been inductions and organizations that have happened where people haven't seen their faces for 2 years, but they're working online, right? And whether it's so senior management, boardroom people who, and today's boardroom average age across the world is 63 years. Imagine those people who have not seen themselves in face-to-face coffee chats or wine and dine sessions, and they have to struggle to continue to run their companies. So it's a real challenge. It's an absolutely real challenge. So I think the whole journey of how you need to sort of overcome that, all of it finally boils down to which part of specific available material that you have, what type of guidance, are you being accountable to yourself? All of it comes from there. So that's what comes to me.
Because there's so much content in the academy, one of the things we've done is we've got a personal development lesson plan, which is a customized plan. We've got a business mentoring, which is a customized plan. But one of them that we've got is called work-life bridging. Work-life, people talk about work-life blend, work-life balance. I call it the bridge between the two. And this concept of uncaged, allowing you to release you from you, which is what we're doing on the 21st of October, a lot of people are caught in this cage in between. Because that we were traversing through this before COVID came along. The ability for someone to actually be sitting on the school run on the phone doing CEO marketing to someone using a Skype or a Zoom call was already happening. All COVID did was just exploded it into exponential billion X times. So what's happened is this work-life bridging thing just exploded. People were already doing the school run and making phone calls. But now all of a sudden, this working from home and everything. So people have actually got to a point because of social distancing, because just the language of that, people have felt they're caged. Now all of a sudden, especially here in Sydney and around the world been doing this, but it's our turn to come out after 4 or 5 months of being locked down, people are going to feel uncaged. And the first thing they're going to do is pleasure, comfort and entertainment. People are talking about it en masse. That's fine. That's cool. But one of the things we're talking about is uncaging people from the fact that this work-life bridging is here to stay. It's not going away. Not going away. There's a couple of things I want to put in here. Thank you, Cheryl. Indeed, there is no certainty, but that's a good thing because that's where the self-awareness and everything we're talking about comes from. The funny thing is, Cheryl, every single successful person are leading up to this incredible period of uncertainty because of COVID. The people who have been called icons were the ones who created uncertainty. So I know it's not easy. I get that. But there's a lot of people who have been living and called icons through history because they created uncertainty in their life. Another one from Cheryl, caused to feel a huge distance amongst each other. Very true. There's one that I really want to cover, and Angel, if you're still on, if you could just drop a comment to see you're still here with us. We'd like to talk to you very quickly. Rajiv, I know I've just thrown this up and you've not seen it. Have you got any response to that?
No, I think this, which one? Sorry, I missed what you're saying.
Angel, I'm depressed because I can't find a job.
Yeah, I think this is, first of all, I would only say that this is an unfortunate reality. And the fact that one is not able to find a job is not the best place to be in. And I think that's real. And I think that one must acknowledge that it's a tough time, a difficult phase for many people to go through. Having said that, the only question that I think so all of us as people would want to ask ourselves is that the only way to come out of this is to take action on what is missing. So let's find out what's missing first and start taking action on it. Because I can promise you one thing: while depression is a reality, but depression is not the solution. I definitely can assure you that. I'm very happy to sort of talk to you, to engage with you and see what help, what support can be available to you to help you tide through this journey. I think that's probably what would come to me.
Angel, this is just me talking to you for a second. I want you to appreciate how much courage it takes to write that. Now, there's a lot of people out there who are just going to say the woe is me thing, but that doesn't read like that. That just reads a statement of fact, and especially in the context of the conversation you've put that into. So number one, I want you to acknowledge how courageous it is for you to put that. This is not one of those, let's just get on and have a talk fest show and just everyone's going to say how misery loves company and all that stuff, and no disrespect for some of those shows that do that, because it's good for people to get together and share. This isn't one of them, Angel. So the fact that you've expressed that point of view, that honestly in this environment, I want you to acknowledge yourself for that. Straight away, that level of acknowledgement takes you one step away from depression. The second thing I want you to really embrace, and I wrote this in the Inspiring Insights Facebook community yesterday. Someone said to me in Vancouver, Canada, on a DM exchange yesterday, they said, letting life touch them, which is something you hear from me, let life touch you, but don't get stuck there. And they made this comment, which prompted me to write these words, and I put it into an image. You can't control some things in your life, Angel. You can't. We can't control some of the things that have happened. Some people who go out for a Friday night meal or go out to meet friends and they get in the wrong intersection at the wrong time and they never come home. We can't control those things. So some things we can't control, Angel. The only thing we can control is the thoughts on every one of those some things. I know this might sound easy for me to say this to you, but Angel, you're not depressed. You're not. I understand that this is hard. And by the way, before you go, yeah, but Steve, look at your fancy jacket and all the fancy graphics. You must be doing fine. I was suicidal once. I was bankrupt once. I lost everything. I went from living as a multimillionaire to living in a hostel and couldn't get a job for almost a decade. So I understand, and I don't say this lightly. You can control your thoughts, and thoughts become things. So, Angel, when you express that I'm depressed, don't be surprised if the universe goes, oh, is that what you want? So reach out to us, Angel. I'd be happy to do whatever we can to encourage and support you. But the very first thing is for you to adopt the thought process that there is a way out of this for me. And if you come on shows like this and you reach out to people, there will be a way. The universe will find a way to help you. Rajiv, we're getting close to winding up. Is there any closing remarks you've got for all of this?
I would first of all, as you rightly said, acknowledge the courage that Angel has shown up with. And I think that's definitely a very, very positive first step. And I think one must compliment him for doing what he has done. And that's probably commendable. I think that's my very, very honest sense about that part of it. And I think so I agree with you that the more you reach out, the more there are people to help you out. There are enough people around wanting to sort of give out a helping hand. I think that's where it is. On the overall conversations we've had, Stephen, I think, as always, I believe that this whole journey of overcoming mental health issues, if I was to really look at it, is about taking control of yourself, your thoughts, your emotions, and your ability to start being accountable to yourself. And I'm using the word accountability here because the moment you choose to start off being answerable to yourself for your actions, I think you will start directing them into a way and manner that probably will lead you towards where you want to get to. I think most of the challenges that we have is that some people choose to say that I don't know where I'm going, but I think in that statement, what is hidden is not that they don't know where they're going. The reality is they haven't yet chosen their destination. And that to me is something which sort of works. Whenever I work with people and somebody who comes back to me and says, well, I'm sort of quite uncertain about what's going to happen. And I give them a very small example of this. I said, when you go back home, where do you go to? Tell me the location where you go to. They said, this is the address. I said, great. I said, if you don't have an address, where would you go to? I said, I don't know. I said, here it is. So finding an address for yourself where you want to head to is your choice.
Yes.
If you choose that, wherever it is, you will move in that direction. So I think mental health, awareness of yourself, discovering your own environment and discovering your own power of being able to take those actions and be ready to deliver on them is all finally adding up to add. I always again come back to that.
Yes,
and that's
indeed.
exactly the power of this. And all of this is, it finally starts with you. I think accountability starts with you. Be accountable to yourself. Make sure that you're investing in your own awareness, investing in your own acceptance, investing in the courage that you need to build by becoming who you can become. Get that courage converted into being able to build courage to discover more about yourself and about the environments, to
Yes.
choose your path, to choose your destination, and then deliver on it.
Very
I
true.
promise you that there
Very,
are enough,
very, very
and
true.
there are wonderful people like Stephen around who are here to help. Right?
Indeed.
Just take the power in your own hands. I think the world is there to be conquered.
It is. Yes, Cheryl, we'll be rebroadcasting the show because we're doing it in different time zones. So we'll be rebroadcasting this for the US and EU, and we'll rebroadcast it even though it won't be live. But I'll be sitting inside the studio interacting with the live replay. So yes, this will happen. Angel, I want you to do something for me if you would be so kind. I'd be really grateful if you do something for me. Pardon me looking over the camera, everyone. I'm just looking at the big screen behind me. Angel, go on to LinkedIn. Go on to LinkedIn. Look for a lady by the name of Rachel Beck. 4 weeks ago, I did 3 9-minute videos with her over 3 consecutive days. And what I did was I told the story about how I went from being a multimillionaire to a suicidal bankrupt and came back to Australia and spent 3 years walking the beaches and no one would give me a job. I went from touring around the White House to actually packing shelves in a supermarket in the period of 18 months. And in between, in that 18-month window, I took a convertible for driver, tried to commit suicide. In those 3 9-minute videos, there's 35 quotes that I provided, but I told my story, Angel, of what I did to avoid where you are. Because I thought I was so stupid for 3 years, Angel, I couldn't even terminate myself. So LinkedIn, Rachel Beck, about 4 weeks ago, you'll see an interview over 3 consecutive days. If you want to, you can DM me on LinkedIn and I highly recommend that you have a look at it. Is it easy, Angel? No, it's not. Do you deserve to do this? Yes, you do, beautiful. Yes, you do. Assuming Angel's a lady. But if you're not a lady, you're still beautiful. If you're a guy, it doesn't matter. Thank you, Angel. I appreciate it for your kindness. I also appreciate... yes, very true. If you want what others can't, you've got to do what others won't. Well said, AB. I really appreciate it. All right, my friend, we better wrap this up. We better wrap this up. Any final thoughts, or you've wrapped it all up in the way that only you can?
No, I'm a student of life under your guidance.
It's very, very kind. Very, very kind. I'm looking for the show outro so I can say goodbye to everybody, which is what we're going to do. Everyone, really appreciate the show has come to a close. Thanks so much for everything that you do. Thanks for all of the presence you've been on the show. Until we see you again, take care. Be well, be brilliant, be present, and be you.